Yep.
You're good.
Give me a nod when
Yeah,
you're
I
ready.
think I'm like 4th.
Shooter's ready. Stand by.
Hello everyone, welcome to the 3GIQ podcast. This is Gunnery Sergeant Matt Gundlach, and I'm joined here today with Staff Sergeant Alex Goking, also in the room, because if you haven't figured out, Captain Scott and I, we share an office. You could probably hear him banging on his keyboard in the background. And then, I have Glomba sitting in here too, because he just wants to watch this whole process for himself. So, we have, like I said, we have Staff Sergeant Alex Goking. He just got to us last month. We recruited him from USPSA, but we brought him over to the 3-gun team because we saw how he dissected his skills in pistol and how he trained realistically through Instagram. And we kind of talked to him and everything prior to coming here. And we just felt like he would be a great fit for the action shooting team. So, Staff Sergeant Goking, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi. Well, yes. Talking about myself is very easy. It's totally easy. I do it all the time. It's fun.
You're making this awkward.
Ah, there we go. Now I feel comfortable. Well, I am definitely strange to some people. I think it's just a different way of doing things. But I am a huge... I am greatly obsessed over the shooting sports. Some would call it a hobby. I prefer to refer to it as something that I am emotionally dependent on, and if I don't get it, I get really pissed off, and a lot faster, and I become very unpleasant when I don't get to shoot. And fortunately, it takes at least 2 weeks before it happens. So, yes, I am addicted to the pews.
Something else about Staff Sergeant Goking. I'm not going to put him on the spot here to do it right now, but he is authorized to kind of blurt it out. He is a father joke connoisseur, not a dad joke connoisseur, but a father joke connoisseur. What is that actually? Because I'm still not even sure what the hell that is.
Well, as I explained once before, it's just another way of saying dad joke. But I like making people feel mildly uncomfortable, so I felt father joke would be a little bit more cringeworthy or post-ironicist. You can look that up. And other times, I have actually been called daddy several times, so I feel like it just works out.
Is that why you call Kim Peterson Daddy Kim?
Oh, no, I don't know. I don't even know why I call him that. It's just he gets really uncomfortable whenever I do it, so it's just really entertaining to watch.
Quit moving your head all around, because then do it at that angle.
Ah, yes. Stability.
Yes.
I learned that.
Where are you coming from? What's your job in the Marine Corps?
So my last unit was VMX-1. It's the Marine Operational Test and Evaluation Squadron. So a lot of new gear, new techniques, tactics, so on and so forth. And my background is I am a DAS guy, an Air Support Operations Operator. You'll usually find us at a COC, working close air support airspace, just getting people what they need. Airstrikes, medevacs, casevacs, and supplies through the air.
Cool. I love close air support. I love aircraft. 11 years ago, I went through Joint Fires Observer School and finally got to use those skills back in 2017. Dropped a lot of bombs on a lot of bad people, and it was really fun. Especially watching them just blow apart. That was cool. I got to do my job.
Hey, that's one of us in this conversation.
Yes. That just means I'm old, according to you guys.
I don't see anything.
So you obviously did not follow the traditional format of come to the team through doing a summer season or coming to the Marine Corps marksmanship competitions, but we saw you on Instagram. And then we kept watching you. You kept tagging us, and we're like, all right, let's give this guy a shot. We couldn't get here sooner, as soon as we liked, obviously. It was, about 2-year process before we could finally get you here because you had to complete your time on station requirements. But now you're here. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your marksmanship background, where you got your start?
All right, so when I was in high school, and I also living in the Philippines, that's where my family's from, but I was born here. What I've always been around like the shooting community there, and I think anybody who's in the shooting sports understands that Filipinos are very, very like I would say immersed in the shooting sports world, like in pretty much all of them. And I got my first taste of IPSC, or PPSA for the Filipino version, when I was in high school. I was about 15 years old, got into it, and I was like, yep, this is pretty much the only sport I will ever do, or something like it. I just loved it from the beginning. I wasn't inherently accurate before, and now I am almost accurate. So, there's been some evolution. And when I enlisted, I was at a range outside of the air station. I was like, oh, that's a USPSA target right there.
Cherry Point?
Cherry Point.
Okay.
And I went up and it's like, hey, you guys do this stuff? It's like, yep, every second and fourth weekend of the month. I'm like, okay, I'll do it. And I had to, living out of the barracks, I had to like ask people to come with me, like, hey, can I borrow your gun? I'm just gonna shoot this match real quick. And then started doing it. Did it casually. I was barely in garrison for like my first contract, so it was more or less okay, if there's time in between field ops, I'm gonna go out there and shoot. And then I get on a MEU, come back from the MEU, and I'm not sure what happened, but I was just like, this was in 2017, I was like, I am going to go full force in this all the way to the top from this point onwards. I also lived in the barracks, which means I was poorer than I am now, so I shot production for a while, which is actually a really expensive division if you think about it, but it's also not if you don't buy a steel gun. But anyways, I did that, and I kept on going full force. I haven't stopped since then. Obviously moved divisions here and there, and have been, especially as of recently, added new sports to my repertoire, and now I'm here. Hello.
Hi. So obviously you have a huge background with USPSA and the PPSA. When you were living in the Philippines, what firearm did you use most?
So my very first pistol, well, it wasn't really mine, but the one that I used first, I was competing in standard division using an H&K USP Compact in 9. Had a good time with it, and when I actually went through college back there, for a while I did a little bit of IPSC shotgun with an M1 Benelli, and I used buckshot.
Okay. Did it rock you?
I mean, birdshot rocks me now, so it's like, yeah.
So
you see me.
So fast forwarding to where you are now, you haven't shot a 3-gun match yet. You got here and I told you, I was like, look, man, I'm not gonna let you shoot your first match until you get some serious training under your belt. Obviously, you're switching to a new sport. We're adding a rifle. We're adding a shotgun. Mm-hmm. I want to make sure you get a decent amount of training before you go to the Great Lakes 3-Gun Championship. What have you found to be the hardest part to get used to? What's new to you, and what have you kind of done to progress within the discipline?
So I would say in the past month, my lowest hanging fruits, they changed a couple times in a good way. When I got into it, the first thing I was worried about was quad loading, because I am not a very dexterous individual. I don't have a lot of dexterity. My hands are very stupid, which might be a neurological issue. I'm probably just stupid, but I mean, that's already like a well-known fact. But first
You
thing
are
was
a Marine.
Semper Fi. Quad loads were the first thing I wanted to tackle, and after a week or two, or actually in the first week, I immediately got obsessed trying to do quad loads because one.
Well, I noticed you break everything down,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like first you start like just from grabbing it off your belt and getting your hand in the proper placement. Then you go to bringing the shotgun in position to sticking it in the gun. Like you are very good at dissecting things and then figuring out how best to efficiency of movement.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I noticed about you.
Absolutely. I am a slow learner, so I have to make sure when I'm learning something, I learn the right way, and I'm asking everybody everything. Like, I remember the first day doing quad loads, I was just asking question after question just to make sure whatever I burn in now, whatever I program into my subconscious now, it better be right. And so far, it's been. I mean, I've gotten all the right information. I got a decent amount of time to work on them, and where I'm at with that, it's like now I just gotta do it. Now I just gotta kind of apply it on a stage and know what my round counts are, so I'm not always quad loading on an empty chamber. So that I started to get comfortable with that. Oh yes, and that I just started trailing off, but yes, I do have to break it down, and I've always found that that's been the most efficient way for me to learn something, especially a fine motor skill, and try to get it like really subconscious.
Nice. So, how are you gonna feel about an all shotgun stage next weekend?
Well, it simplifies the equation of the number of guns on a stage.
Mm-hmm.
I do not mind it at all because it increases my success rate with dropped shells. So if I drop one shell in a 60 round stage, that ain't bad.
All right. So now that you're here, you obviously been given the whole spiel. Like, hey man, you're an instructor first, competitor second. What's something that you want to talk to? What's something you would want to impart on your students most? What's one thing that's most important to you?
Well, for my students, the biggest thing is, and I think if we look at the entire team, just how much drive there is in individuals. I think one thing I want to impart is the importance of doing things the right way and continuing to do so on your own. I think we've all seen it. Like we look back at our like previous platoons, companies, whatever you guys call your thing, a shop or whatnot. There's always that one guy who's always at the gym. There's always that one guy who is, or girl, who's extremely good at something. Let's say you insert like niche in like in a microcosm of a small unit. There, and you always have that guy who's just always shooting, always doing something. Not saying that everybody has to be that guy because that's not realistic. It's never going to happen. But everything, especially in the marksmanship world where you're doing a lot of fine motor movements and you're expected to do it under stress, under competitive stress, you name it, you have to put in the time, you have to put in the effort, and you have to do it smartly. So I think I would like, my students to understand that it's not that simple, but it's not that hard. It's none of the above. It just takes a little bit of effort and understanding, and try not to get institutionalized too hard, because a lot of things take critical thinking. Like, where do you put your finger on the trigger? Well, that depends. It's not always the pat of your finger.
Oh, you didn't put your weapon back on safe whenever you moved. Oh, well, you don't have to. Why do you have to put your safety on every single time? It's going to slow you down.
I mean, if you're running with if your gun's on safe and you're running with your trigger finger on the trigger, that's still unsafe. Safety doesn't take a whole lot of poundage to disengage.
Yep. You have a lot of experience in USPSA, so one gun thing. When you're out at your matches, how do you prepare?
So, for a match, especially a big one, I try to work. I try to backwards plan on like how much time do I have for that match, and a lot of the the months prior to that's where like all the improvement happens. That's where I kind of like think about how much ammunition do I have, what can I work on, what can I do in dry fire, what can I save for live fire, especially back when I didn't have that much ammo, and so I had to make every round count. I would make sure I knew what I was working on, and I wasn't gonna do something in live fire that I wasn't gonna work on something in live fire that I could do in dry fire, so I could just make sure that live fire was an evaluation of my dry fire, and that the match itself or local matches would be an evaluation of my live fire. But one thing that I always did was a week before the match, I would always remind myself, this is not time for improvement. 1 to 2 weeks before a match, I would not try to improve anything. I wasn't going to do something that I couldn't do. I would spend those couple weeks making sure I was honed into my own ability, so that when match day comes, I'm not trying anything new. I already know what I can do. I already did the work. And that's where I could just go to the match, walk on the stage. When I'm on deck, internalize, visualize, and hit the play button. So that's kind of how I've approached all my matches.
By internalize, what are you doing?
So, well, I always tell people that the two things you have to work on the hardest during a match is make sure you have a stable mental state. That's extremely important, because that takes effort. And then internalizing and visualizing, that's like your stage plan, because that's the two things you can do is make sure you're mentally good, and two, making sure that stage plan gets burned in as internal as possible, so that when you get on the stage, when that buzzer goes off, you hit the play button, and all you're doing is observing, assessing, and maybe reacting for, let's say, if stuff gets bad. But trying to remove as much of the conscious mind out of the shooting as possible, which you're not going to get everything, but you want to get as much as possible.
Have you taken any classes or anything like that? What have you done that has kind of led you to the philosophy, or to what it is that you do now and how you practice now?
Well, I have taken a JJ Rakaza class not too long ago, but there was this one moment a few years back. Sergeant Wilkerson was actually there at that match. That was like a fairly chill local match, and there was like a classifier. There was a classifier match there, and that classifier match was the one match that I worked the hardest on ever, because I just got off ship. I wanted to do something cool, and I dry fired for hours. I did everything. I went hard, and when I went to the match, I went as hard in the paint as I could, and then completely bombed it. And I was like, what just happened? I have no idea what happened. And I realized that the match, because I cared about it so much versus my other matches were kind of quote unquote just for fun, I was like, that doesn't make any sense. So I started to analyze. I was like, why this doesn't make any sense. You're supposed to work hard, and then you win. Well, what just happened? So I started looking into it. I actually bumped into Steve Anderson's podcast, where he talks about like match mentality, and I got a few points out of the couple episodes I listened to, and I was like, oh wow, let me try that out. So talks about kind of like just pretty much he takes what Brian Enos has in his book and kind of like talks about it to greater detail on what you should be thinking about in a match, what you should be doing in practice, how much practice is important, and how much your mental state is in the match is important, and you're not supposed to be trying. You're supposed to just let it happen. So I got that, and I applied it as hard. I applied it to my succeeding matches, and I found like, oh, okay, this works, and I've used it ever since.
Nice. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you just got here. You have 3 years left on the team. What is it that you are most looking forward to accomplish from the team, help the team? Like, what is it that you're most looking for?
Well, several things. I do like winning, and I want to win as hard as possible with the limited time that I have here, and use the resources that we have here to like get as far up as possible. But I think I would say the most important thing that I felt from the team is before I got to the team, when I actually first met some of the guys, I was on TAD at 29 Palms. I was doing some like airspace type stuff, and then I heard the team was coming over, so I went into my car, took a short nap after a night shift, and drove over. And when I met the guys, I was like, okay, I'm not sure what the team's gonna be like, because I've never met them before. I don't know what they're probably. I don't know. I expected like something,
Prima donnas.
Well, more robotic, like institution, like people of the institution type people. I'm not gonna go into that. I'm gonna get in trouble if I talk about that. But when I met him, I was like, oh my gosh,
these guys are just regular dudes.
These guys are regular dudes. These guys are just gamers. I feel it. So I was able to relate with everybody, and we had some conversations, and I think I fall under that same, I would say, mindset or mission that I've had even in the fleet. I want to bring competitive shooting to the active reserve or just general military community or anybody interested, because I know what the benefits are, and obviously the biggest things we push are the benefits to lethality. Okay, inserted a buzzword in there. But the other part of what shooting has done for me, I always tell people, when I was a Lance, I could have been much, much, much more disgruntled, but I always told myself, you know what? I don't care what happens at work. At the end of the week, if I could hit a match, that's just the reset button for me. I could come back the next week after having the worst week in the world and come back and just be like, whoa, let's have another bad week. I mean, let's have a good week. And then, and it was great. It helped me. It helped
confidence building.
Oh, absolutely. Confidence, just that mental state of knowing that you have a place to go to. Because for me, it's like when that buzzer goes off, up until unload and show clear, nothing in the world matters. And that's a huge thing for me. Some people call it meditation. I heard people do that in meditation. Does that work? I don't know. But it's just pure euphoria between the buzzer and the end. And I can't get it anywhere else. Well, no, anyways. And it's just, I want to bring that out. I want people to experience that. And the instructor side of it is like, I remember helping a bunch of people out and just seeing like that, oh, eureka, I found it moment for a lot of people, and seeing like a big smile form on their faces because they just learned how to shoot a gun more better. That's pretty cool. I really enjoy it. I like watching people have fun.
More better.
Shoot more better.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So, being that you've mainly just done USPSA.
Wow, that's not a negative.
You've only done USPSA. What was the best experience you had
in USPSA?
Yeah, you haven't done a 3-gun yet. You've done all shotgun stuff.
I've dabbled in stuff here and there on like random weekends, but I don't think I ever really dove into it. And the question was, what was the most fun?
Yeah, what was one of your more memorable experiences at a match? What match did it for you?
I'm gonna need a second for this, because I have a lot of fun in a lot of matches. I'm bouncing to different clubs right now, so if I shot at your club, I'm probably thinking about that club, but thinking about another club after.
I'd say it was any time Daddy Kim was involved.
I only shot with him a couple times,
Uh-huh.
Oh, well. Oh.
You hear this, Kim? He's downplaying you.
He shot a USPSA match with me a couple times. Well, I think once. But we can't say that now. I don't want him to, don't want to, ruin his image.
Mm-hmm.
3-gun Kim Peterson. I've just enjoyed just about every major, every local match that I've been to. It's easier for me to name matches that I didn't like than it is for me to talk about kind of like my favorite experiences. But I think a better way to answer it is, in terms of the shooting side of it, like the USPSA side of it, I can name my best experiences put into one. There was a club that I was a part of out there. It was a Yuma Matchmasters. And after every match, we would always hang out at this little, like, the shed next to the stat shack. We had, like, retired Marines. We had... Not everybody was, like, a retired... not everyone was a veteran. It was just a mix of, like, so many different people in the LE community. Civilians who just shot better, who just like to kick all of our butts. We had BP guys. We had Marines. And we just hung out there for hours and hours. And being a part of that community was, I guess, if you combine all the local matches and the majors they held, that was just an amazing time. Just because we all kind of got it, and we all like shooting, and we also all like drinking. I think
it's like a big family.
Oh, that's absolutely.
Every time you go to a match, it's a family reunion.
Absolutely. And even if it's a local match, it's like we forget we're there to win. You know, we just go there, and sometimes we win.
And you're having fun the entire time.
Absolutely, the entire time.
Is there anything you want to? What are you going to focus on next week, right before the match?
I would say next week, where I stand now, is the two things that I need to focus on. I need to get a lot more familiar with my holds. And I'll include stability in that. So 3 things. Just working that distance rifle. Just making sure I get comfortable with that. And, a lot more comfortable with it. I'm getting comfortable now. I need to get a lot more comfortable with it and know that I can do it even in my sleep. And just getting used to the feeling of stringing 3 guns together in one stage at once. So that's... those are the things I'm going to work on the hardest next week.
Nice. Is there anything else you'd like to leave the listeners with before we cut out of here?
What do people usually leave the listeners with on your podcast?
I don't know. This is like the 4th episode, dude.
Oh, okay. Whew. I'll need a moment. You might need to cut out the dead space.
Well, do you have any dad jokes?
Whew.
Would you like to say anything to Daddy Kim?
Well,
because we're going to be doing an interview with him next week whenever we're at Great Lakes.
Nice. Well, Kim. It's like I'm in a mix of don't know what to say, but I have too many things to say.
Just say it.
All right. Well,
Mind you, Kim told me to kick your ass whenever you got here.
That's fine. I'm even when I get beat up, I can put a smile on my face because I'm an optimist, Kim. You know that, Kim? I am an optimist. I'm a happy guy. So, try to break my spirit that's actually really possible. It's very easy, very easy. But anyways, yeah. I will leave the listeners with a moment of silence for all the lost hit factors and all the bad raw times and all the... No, I'm not going to bring IDP into this.
No, we don't talk about that
IDP.
stuff.
Okay,
no.
so no down zero.
Uh-uh.
Well, remember, whether you win or lose, it doesn't matter. Because to somebody somewhere in this world, we are all losers.
Wise words from SSgt Goking.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Everybody, I hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions, feel free to email, Instagram. We'll put Goking's Instagram tagline down in the description, and you can bother him all you like.
Elevator music.
And we're done.